you have been wondering, if you have been curious about like what else can I do to find a way to feel more comfortable in my relationships. Our first relationship that we have as humans, no matter if you're a boy, a guy, or a girl, our first relationship is with our moms. It was almost like we live a life separate or very different than the how we are born. Like we are born in a belly and nothing that we do as humans in normal life has to do with a lifestyle of something that is for 9 months inside of a belly. After hearing so much about psychology, self-development, self-discovery, all these concepts, we already understand that it's 9 months that we are in a belly of a human that whatever they eat, we are going to eat it too. If they drink coffee, the coffee affects us. If they drink alcohol, the alcohol affects us. If they use chemical products, that's going to affect the baby. We already understand that. The same happens with their emotions. If they're stressed out, if they're sad, if they are whatever they're experiencing is going to have an impact in the baby inside of the womb, right? So there's nothing too woo-woo or weird about that concept. We already normalized that idea. The thing that happens, coming back to the subject of relationships, is that, and this happens to a lot of women, I think we are also ready to normalize to normalize the fact that a lot of women, when we are in relationships, even if we are taking care of ourselves, even if we are taking care of our bodies, even if we are on birth control, there are accidents. It happens to a lot of us, including myself. I've been pregnant a couple of times, not wanting to be pregnant. So what happens in those moments? In those moments, we experience a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, a lot of rejection. We do not want the pregnancy, meaning we do not want the baby. So there are places in the world where we have normalized getting an abortion. There are personalities, there are people, women and men, that are very comfortable with the idea of getting an abortion. And there are also moments in life where getting an abortion, it is I want to say that, yeah, we all are just coming from different experiences. I want to say that a lot of our parents just didn't have that option. And they didn't see it because they couldn't access to it, or because they consciously just didn't have it available for us, for them, I'm sorry. So for me, it was available. Like I had the support from everyone, and I had experiences seeing other women in my life doing it, so I just didn't think much about it. It's just like 1, 2, 3, this is what I'm doing. But if I think about my mom, for example, my mom was already 36 years old. In this, I just see what her lifestyle was, the relationship she had with my dad, and I totally understand why they decided to have me. So my case, it can be a little triggering for some people. I love my parents, I love my life, I love everything, but it is one of those stories where my parents didn't have a good relationship, but they, inside of them, they had the knowing. And these are different times also, times where parenting styles weren't as available as we have right now. So they had the knowing that they wanted to be parents of two daughters. They wanted 2 daughters. They had 2 daughters. But my mom, for example, had a lot of rejection for the pregnancy, meaning for me. And a lot of the things that she experienced during the pregnancy, I think, I don't know, we can say that maybe she had a little depression. It was kind of like the breakup of the relationship. A lot of things happened during the pregnancy. So I'm just, sharing very vulnerably, because I know that is the case for a lot of moms. A lot of moms don't feel comfortable, don't. I'm in my 30. I'm in my mid 30s. Like, think about our moms. We are now learning about communication and about being vulnerable. Like, a lot of our parents just have not idea how to be vulnerable, how to open up, how to talk about emotions, how to talk about the trauma. Many of them don't even know what the trauma is. I feel like I'm very privileged. I'm very lucky. I feel very privileged to have the relationship I have with my parents. Two parents that are far from being perfect, but since, and they might, like, I know they both wanted to be more, if we can say, ready to be parents. They, in a way, it's almost like they regret a little bit about the way they decided to become parents. But even though they always did their best, and also something that I appreciate, and that's the whole point that I want to make here, like something that I feel very grateful to have with them, is that the fact that they were always very open with the story and with the with everything that happened in the moment they decided to become parents, how everything happened for them during that time. So they have told me this story many, many times, and yeah, I just have a lot of information, which has been super helpful, because I've been able to work with that and transform that, and to find the way I want to tell my own story, to understand where I might have, behaviors and where they come from, and I think, well, I'm getting a little distracted with this story. The thing is, I know there are a lot of parents that haven't felt comfortable telling their daughters, their sons, what was the real situation when they were in the process of having them, of being pregnant. So anything that mom and dad experienced during that time, we feel it. The baby feel it. And the crazy thing, going back to the idea of relationships, is that the way babies interpret that, it's as rejection. So it's, a lot of the times it's just like, it might have happened during the pregnancy, but a lot of the times also might have happened after the pregnancy, or even, some people during the pregnancy and after the pregnancy. So it reinforced the idea of, I'm not ready to be a mom. I didn't want to be a mom. I didn't want to have this, which is super painful to hear, but I didn't want to have this baby. So what happens there is that we create a pattern, a way of behaving, a way of relating to people. And that takes different shapes, different forms for everyone. We create this survival mechanism, because if you can imagine, when you're a baby, mom means everything. Mom is food, mom is nourishment, mom is just, if there's not mom, right, or dad, caring, caregiver, the baby is just lacking a lot of things, and that starts showing up in our lives in different ways. And this is one of the major ways that we start seeing in our relationships, that there are these blockages, that we keep attracting things that are painful, that we are like, but I do want to be friends with this person, I do want to have loving relationships. And it's almost, I think we all have different versions of this. And I would love you to sit for a little bit with this idea. If something of what I said sparked something in you, if you're recognizing something from what I'm saying, like, oh God, it is true that it almost feels like I've been this way in my relationships. And I want to say that an easy way to um, detect this, I guess, is especially in your relationships with women. If you can sit down and reflect a little bit about what I am describing, how you're feeling about what I'm describing, and also how your relationships with the women around you in your life, how you have felt in those relationships. A very common pattern is that we keep attracting, that's for example, what's my case, I keep attracting people, women that are very controlling, that want to control me, that have similar characteristics as my mom, that are this kind of dominant energy, at the same time caring. So that's the easy way to start realizing, like, oh my god, my thing with relationships might come from my first relationship, the relationship I have with my mom. It's if you have a lot of relationships with women in your life that you have felt like there's this like heaviness, like it's just like people that, women that are just like, yeah, like that are not fully loving with you. If you feel that energy, that are women that are just not fully vulnerable and authentic and loving with you, that's where you can identify, like, okay, it's this is connected with what I'm describing. The way how we are gonna work with this is just give yourself enough time to kind of go through the whole thing, because it might bring a lot of memories. It's just different for everyone, you know. For some people it might be like the massive breakthrough they have in their lives. I've been sharing this with many people since I find out about this, and some people are like, oh my freaking god, I see it so clearly. So give yourself that space. So like after watching this video, I invite you to just take a couple of hours of your weekend, sit down with this. Second thing, and just journal, and you know, give yourself the space to remember, to bring up those memories, to digest what is it, the feeling, the memory, the core thing for you here. And then the second step for this is to, what we all are capable and are invited to do, is to create acceptance, to connect with the energy of acceptance. Why acceptance? I think there's this tendency of, oh my god, my mom is a bitch, like my parents. Sounds terrible. Like, why did they have me? You know, like some people might start having a little feeling of anger, grief, like so many different feelings might come up. So acceptance, it is the most beautiful thing, because they did their best. We all are doing our best every single second moment of our lives. So they did their best in the consciousness they had at that time. If they knew about all the things that I was describing earlier, like about the parenting styles and options of abortion, of all these things, they would have done the best thing they knew. But the best thing they knew was what they did. Even if it sounds super painful, we cannot blame them. We cannot blame anyone. Like, this one story is coming to my mind right now. It's one of those kind of personal things that I'm like, God, I don't know if it's fair to share, but it is one ex-partner, and he shared this story of his mom going back to work, like, I don't know, after the second or third week that she gave birth. And I always, it just kind of shocked me a little bit. I was like as a woman, after a pregnancy, it takes a little time to recover, you know. Like, I was kind of impressed, like, oh my god, wow, it's a very strong woman that, you know, felt ready to be working and all these things. And again, like, I'm not gonna blame anyone. Like, she probably didn't know what that could have done to her baby. There are many stories like that, and there are many people doing life attracting situations and attracting dynamics, yeah, relationships that don't feel good, that they feel like, oh God, I'm just not able to enjoy this dynamic, this person. And it's similar to, the few other people in the past that make me feel the same way. Anyway, I think you guys are getting the point. So the second step of acceptance and having compassion, there is this other exercise that you can, or this other idea, other concept that you can apply in this section, this part of creating acceptance and compassion. And it's the idea of forgiving yourself also. For this is a little tricky sometimes for people, because we have the tendency to think that things happen to us, that someone is doing things to us. We kind of have that mentality. I don't know where we got that, from religion or from where, but it's a tendency that most humans have. So having forgiveness to ourselves, like forgiving ourselves for carrying that perception, the perception, because the thing is, like, when you start finding out the memories and the moments where you felt that way, like, okay, I felt rejected, I didn't feel, that's what I think most people are going to find out, that you didn't fully felt loved by your mom, that you felt through many years this layer of rejection. Even if now I have a very beautiful relationship with my mom, but when I went back in the past, I was like, shit, it is true that I didn't feel that deep connection, that deep loving connection with my mom. So the forgiveness to ourselves for having that perception, it is a little difficult to recognize and to have this vision that that somehow we learned in the pregnancy or when we were very little, and we might not remember, we learned to perceive that the actions that our mom was doing weren't loving, or that were actions that she was rejecting us. Because you might have experienced in your life already one very scary situation where there are 10 people and 3 of them don't think that is scary, and the rest of people think that is the worst thing that ever happened. So it's the same idea, some babies might feel rejected, some other babies might not feel rejected. So that's where you ask, like, how come some babies are going to feel rejected? Why some babies are way more sensitive? Why they're born more sensitive than others? It has to do with the pregnancy. It has to do what mom and dad experience in life. Like, how come a baby is already carrying ways of perceiving life and perceiving the world if they're just learning how to be a human? Think about it and be a little open. I know it can be a little, wait, what is she talking about? If you look at babies, if you put 5 babies all together and you pay attention to their behavior, you're gonna see that there are some babies that are super outgoing and loving and laughing and la 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 la. They're just like this expression of joy and love. And some other babies can be a little bit more sensitive, and they might have reactions. Think about why and where those reactions come from. From the environment, from their parents, from what mom and dad experienced in the pregnancy. So when we are applying the forgiveness, it's forgiving ourselves for not having other perspectives, for not having other more loving, enthusiastic, positive perspectives, for not having more grace And the thing is, like, we don't even have to feel bad about it, because we are always able to say, okay, like, I didn't have that, but I see that it exists and it's available, so I can learn it. And this, we're, I don't know, I feel like humans, we just learn very wrong many things, because we have this situation, because we are working on this thing. We might have the tendency to say, like, oh my god, like, I don't know, I am broken, I am not like the rest of the world. But we might be dealing with this thing, with this aspect, what I'm describing in this video, and other people might be dealing with many other things that might be super easy for you, or you might have not like that they could be challenging. So, you know, it's just one thing that we are learning, and that we know how to work with, and how to shift, and also start receiving so many benefits from it. Because on the other side, there are more loving and deeper relationships with people. Now, in the moment you're going to start relating with people, you're going to start interacting with people, you're going to start noticing from the place you relate with people. And that's, for example, where I am now. Like, now I'm seeing all these behaviors, but I understand now where they come from. That's the breakthrough. This is the magic that happens when we start working with these energies, with these parts of ourselves. So I am realizing that in my relationships, and especially with women, I have some layers, as I was saying earlier in the video. Like, I have these layers of avoidance. It's like I want deep relationships, and I want to connect deeply with people, but at the same time I have like these layers of protection that I learned as a survival mechanism since I've been little, to prevent that, to get deep and vulnerable with women. So the invitation now is like, when you start realizing all these behaviors, of course, it can look in many different ways for everyone. It can look also as anxious, like wanting desperately to be in friendships with women and to have close relationships with women. And that might make women, your girlfriends, or, you know, the other women in your life, to kind of freak out and don't want to be close, because it's just like this intense energy of something that haven't been processed. That's why we keep attracting those personalities. Whenever we keep attracting patterns, so you know, it's because especially those patterns that we are like, oh my god, like this is the same thing, and it feels so intense. It's because there's unprocessed emotions and stories and trauma, name it the way you want. So that's always the invitation, to go inside and find the way to work with these things. It can be avoidance, it can be anxious behaviors, it can be also like putting people on pedestals, like relating to people in a funny way that you maybe weren't aware of this until this video. Now you're realizing, like, oh my god, it is true that I treat my girlfriends like they're, you know, like God, or yeah. And it's because we have that funny, funky relationship with our own moms. We're not knowing, maybe not being aware that that's the case. That's been the case. The other behavior that I have seen is searching for protection, wanting dominant personalities, dominant women, to like wanting to have that kind of personalities to get protection, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm explaining that right, but yeah, wanting to be in friendships or relationships with women that are very dominant. And the reason why we want that is because we want the protection from these women, and it's because we have been, our little inner child has been wanting that protection from our own moms. it's like so many layers. It's just a lot of behaviors that we have, and they all come from um, this dynamic we had with our own moms. So it is a time to be super gentle with yourself, just to pay attention and to start tracking things. Get curious, always with love and compassion. Take note, and you don't have to jump right away to create a lot of change. I invite you to start taking note. Journaling is my most favorite thing in the world. It's your best friend, where you can just start breaking down the things that present in your life dynamics, how you feel, how you think you can shift them, and little by little start asking yourself, okay, this has been the dynamic with these friends, with these people. How from now I want to relate? How from now, if I understand that I've been attracting these relationships because I've been searching for that love, protection, acceptance, validation, from my own mom. Now, if I'm not searching, if I am, I forgot this part. Like when we are forgiving and accepting and being compassionate, it is time for us to start giving all the things that we were lacking, that we didn't get when we were little, that we think we didn't get and we wanted when we were little. It's the time for us to say, okay, little kid, little inner child, I am here for you. I'm gonna get you do and just give you whatever you need. That's the work of inner child. I have some videos about inner child work, but there's also so much information out there about inner child work. So that's the healing aspect, like you giving yourself all the things that you maybe didn't get, that you feel like, okay, this is what I wanted. And then you're gonna realize, like, okay, I've been searching for all these things in all the women around me. It can take form of it doesn't have to be only women. Sometimes we do the same in romantic relationships, and with male figures. Once you realize, like, okay, I don't have to be searching for these things, I don't need these things from my relationships, it is time for you now to start choosing, to start getting curious about who you want to be, and to start creating that person that you want to be in your relationships. One thing that I suggest in this process, you don't have to go too crazy to start, like creating out of nowhere, like this new person, this new identity. You just by being present in your relationships, by not reacting, by not responding from those old places you used to relate, you used to react, you are going to start discovering the new, it's funny to say the new, but yeah, the new person, and the person that you have been authentically being your whole freaking life, and you didn't know it's been inside of you, it's been always with you, but we put a lot of survival layers on that real you, on that real us. I, from the bottom of my heart, I wish you the absolute best. I send you so much love. It is a time to really be loving and compassionate with ourselves. Please be super gentle. This can be a little, it's a tender space where we are entering. If you feel like you would like to work with a coach, a therapist, I invite you to, check yourself first and see, if you might need a little support during this process. I do believe that you can do it by yourself, but sometimes, again, we all are so different. We all have experienced many different things in our lives. So check with yourself first and give yourself what you need. You got this, and I wish you the best. Peace, so much love, and until my next video.